All right, y'all. I'm Lando from LandonShow.
All right.
And that's fitting considering I just found out you're a Texas fan too. So shout out to our guy, Matthew McConaughey. This, of course, is Sports Below the Surface.
I am inevitable.
Here with a special guest, my guy Lou today. It's a long time coming, and there's some things that have actually happened behind the scenes where I left this guy right here on red for how many months? 8 months, probably. On Twitter, we had some discussions back and forth on Instagram, but I didn't realize that he had also reached out to me on Twitter. So that's completely on me. Life is fast and furious, but I know you guys are in for a treat today. So wanted to introduce Lou from Lou's Takes. Let me go ahead and I'll put his banners up so you guys know exactly where to follow him. But this is who I would consider an expert in offensive line play or just generalized scheme, I guess, technique and all that type of stuff. And we're going to talk about offensive line being potentially in play at 12 or 44, whatever you prefer. And especially with the most recent, I know you just had some business meetings too behind the scenes, Lou. So I don't know how active you've been on Twitter this morning, but I just now logged on to Twitter for the first time and saw what Todd Archer reported this morning about Armand Membu being yet another 30 draft visitor. So a little bit of fuel to our fire here, if you will. But without further ado, man, Lou, I just wanted to let you take a few moments, if you want, to introduce yourself, and then let's kick this thing off, man. Thanks for being here.
Man, I appreciate it, man. You didn't have to listen. I know we all got lives outside of this. It's extremely hard. The beautiful thing about today, is the present. It's always tomorrow. So that's why, like, I was anybody that that hasn't reached back out. Like, oh, it may be they're in the season right now. But yeah, I'm Lou's Takes. You can follow me at LOU Takes. I do, draft content. They calling me the O-line, the trenches expert. I love the trenches. I played, at a high level.
You and Botch, man, y'all would be a dynamic duo right there.
Yeah, we had a couple of shows together, and people loved it. Yeah. But I talk about the boring stuff, but the stuff that's pretty much needed in order to build a championship team. And we got a couple of discussions that's going on within our community today that we got to discuss. Because it's a heated discussion, but it's not our fault if you will. If we had better oversight and management, this would be handled a lot better. Or it's just everyone wants to win, and we're all solutions oriented. So I appreciate any type of feedback.
Sure. Okay. So I actually just watched your breakdown, and it was featuring Brock Hoffman. So I want you to sort of just sum up that video in your own best words as quickly. Take as much or as little time as you want on that discussion. But I wrote a piece on cowboyscountry.com a few weeks ago, maybe a week and a half ago now. I'm not exactly sure on the timeline, but we can pull that up if we want and use that as sort of an outline. But not before I get your thoughts, because we haven't talked about this stuff behind the scenes. So I don't know where you're at. I don't know how much you've seen of what I've written or the work that I've put out. So like I said, I just got my first feeler on your thoughts on Brock Hoffman's film from 2024, but I don't know where you're at how you see him projecting within the new scheme, the new team, the new system moving forward. Okay. Schotty in particular, though, before I let you go, is on record. And I'm sure you've probably seen what he said about Brock, but not only did he not stutter, not hesitate, not flinch when Nick Harris from Fort Worth Star-Telegram asked him, hey, how much confidence do you have in Brock Hoffman being a 17-game starter? I thought it was a fantastic question because I had already had those discussions myself. I'm wondering the same thing. So salute and shout out to Nick. But Schotty didn't flinch. The first thing he said was, I would never bet against Brock Hoffman. Okay, that's number one. Number two, he followed it up and took it a step further and said, if I'm in the back of a bar and I'm stuck, I need to fight my way out, I want Brock Hoffman next to me. Now, those are powerful words. Schotty is an ultimate communicator. He is a culture builder, right? He's relationships. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but just your generalized thoughts, okay? And this is part of the discussion of O-line at 12. It all ties together. My opinion, I like Brock Hoffman. Schotty clearly likes Brock Hoffman. We cannot depend on that as a stable, reliable starter because of Nick's question, right? We have not seen it for 17 games.
Mm-hmm.
So neglecting to even attempt to improve, if you could, if the board fell to you that way, and you have a highest graded interior player, and just for you, Lou, I put Tyler Booker on the thumbnail as well. I don't know if you've seen that yet either, but Tyler Booker is featured, as well as Josh Simmons. I just wanted to mix it up. Yesterday, I had Kelvin Banks and I believe Jonah S. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name, but Jonah S.
Yeah,
there you go. So yeah, but we don't know. We cannot say definitively, regardless of what anybody thinks about Brock Hoffman, what Brock Hoffman will be, not only in a new system, but for 17 games. Talk about Brock Hoffman, if you don't mind, Lou.
Yeah, so I did, I put out a video more in detail, going in depth into that. Now, I mean, I understand everyone's sentiment. I even praised Brock Hoffman in the midst of what happened last year, and I made a video praising him, and I said, hey, can he step up? Can he be the successor to Zach Martin?
Right.
And we got those games after that. And I just came away after thinking and doing these draft evaluations, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know, especially with the new coach we got coming in. Brock Hoffman did a lot of things, but we gotta before you can think about the now, we gotta think about what happened prior. Like every coach is judged on what the coach prior to them happened. That's the same thing with players.
Right.
When you taking over Zach Martin, we gotta remember what Zach Martin was at. He was breaking down. He had a broken leg and a broken back, and he was pretty much deteriorating right before our eyes. And he couldn't move. He couldn't move. And we saw it catch up to him. So Brock Hoffman had to come in and not be that in terms of health.
Right.
Just be a competent body to stay in front of him. And in terms of that, he did that. Now, in my video, I broke down the nuances because now things have changed. Things have changed because we got a different offensive coordinator in here. Well, he's already been here, but he's been emphasizing some things, and he's been the hires that we made, especially with Clayton Adams and then the offensive coordinator we got. Those are key. Like those are key. I did some deep dives into where they come from and the technique they teach. And we're moving to a power run scheme, a gap run scheme. We're gonna have some zone, but we're gonna move in power. But why does Brock Hoffman foul? He's on the outside looking in. Well, Brock Hoffman is a center. He's not a guard starting out. That's his primary position. Me having this wild thought of, okay, let's improve from Brock Hoffman. Well, you did it last year with the guy you got in the 4th round, who was a very good guy, and you converted him, and he ended up being better than Hoffman. So like it's not out of this world to say that a rookie can't come in and be better than Hoffman at his secondary position. Let's start there. Yeah. So why did we move on from Hoffman at center? Because he was a good center. You can see it. But the problem is we wanted to get stronger at center. That's the key word there. Stronger.
Controlling the A gap.
Controlling the A gap.
Yes.
Brock Hoffman and when you're at center, you can hide. What do I mean by that? There's zone protections. There's this thing I call the half-man slide, where half the line is in zone and the other half is in man. Well, the center is always going to be with the zone side, which means he's always going to necessarily have help on, especially to wherever side he is. And he got sometimes in the half-man slide, the guard that's on the man slide has to come on, and now he has double the help. So we can hide him, if you will. Right. At guard, it's completely different. You're no longer you have, when in the half-man slide, there's some times where you're going to be isolated. And was times, that's what I'm scared of in the 17 game sample size. We hid you at first, but now we can't, because teams, and we saw it at the end of the year. That's why I wanted to emphasize in my video that the Jalen Carters, the Dexter Lawrences, teams, when they play defense, they're not going to do what's harder. They're going to do what's easier automatically. That's what I've been trying to get the Cowboys to do with Michael Parsons. Stop having him go up against the best of the best and let's have a pride war. No, if there's a matchup, let's take the matchup. Yep. And they're going to do that, and they're going to rep it all game long. And now if you don't beat it early on, it becomes a tendency, and you're going to see it until you get it right. Yeah. And we saw with our rookies. They couldn't stop the stunts in games. Well, guess what? Until they got it right, the coordinators, because it's a copycat league, they're going to continue to send it until you get it right. Yeah. And So that's my concern with Hoffman, in terms of that. And then like on run downs, I feel like he's a zone runner. He's a hat on hat guy. Zone versus gap. The difference, people think is all about the pulling guards and getting down to space, but the most important block is the front side double team that's displacing. Keyword displacing, which means we got to move these guys against their will to the backside linebacker. So a hat on hat guy may not be, the best fit there, because we need somebody who's going to uproot the D tackle and move the 330-pound guy against his will.
Dig people out, right?
Dig
people
them out.
Movers,
Yeah, we need people.
Forklifting. So, like you alluded to it a second ago, and I think it's critical. It's another Vach terminology. Find the scrub, right? And I'm not saying that Brock Hoffman is the scrub, but it's entirely likely in any given game when you've got a first-round draft pick in Tyler Guyton, we'll see what we get there, and we'll talk about that position too. But then you've got all-world left guard, a guy that we think can become an all-pro caliber center in Cooper Beebe, but that his strength, those two guys right there, that combination is their superpower is what? Digging people out against their will, right? Being stronger, like you touched on with Cooper Beebe, having him in the middle. While we were so excited last year to have him in the middle of a first ballot Hall of Famer and a first team All Pro, who's all strengths in their prime of their careers. Zach Martin fell apart, right? It's just father time. It is what it is. Mm-hmm. But that's what we were excited about, is not getting bullied up front and in the middle anymore.
Right.
And that was sort of the sole purpose of Cooper Beebe. And that's the sole purpose of this discussion here. I like Brock Hoffman, but that doesn't mean that he's the best suited candidate, right? The Cowboys have already brought in competition. Robert Jones. Right. So that it's no guarantee that he's even the starter. But even beyond that, a step further, Lou, it's no guarantee that the Cowboys can't still get better from both of those two guys.
Right.
And if the board falls to you the way that, in this hypothetical scenario here, O-line at 12, you get wiped out with, say, Ashton Jeanty goes to the Raiders. Mm-hmm. I still don't think that that's like a lock by any means, but let's just say for this argument here. Okay. Tetero McMillan goes to either the Patriots or whoever, the Jets. Okay. Those are your top two highest graded skill position players. You have them graded above the next highest offensive lineman, but they're gone. So now your next highest graded player, Lou, take your pick of the litter, Josh Simmons, Kelvin Banks, Tyler Booker, Armand Mimbu now. Once again, Todd Archer reporting he's the next notable 30 visit. The Cowboys are clearly doing their homework. They're doing their due diligence, which is all I've been saying this for 2 weeks now. That's been the premise of my discussion that I'm having. It's just, okay, yes, I know that we're all infatuated with the sexy pick of the skill positions, and I am too. And I know I will be thrilled if we take one of those two guys that we just mentioned. But if they're wiped, and because of your current situation, none of the guys on your roster, not even Tyler Guyton, not even Brock Hoffman, not even Robert Jones, TJ Bass, Nate Thomas.
Right.
The list goes on. Austin Richards.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys don't preclude you from getting better. If the board falls, you're wiped. Your highest graded player is a guard or a tackle.
That's all we're saying. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
Right.
Don't neglect because of don't get, just don't be afraid. Don't get tired because we've been drafting O-linemen before. Don't forget why we've been drafting O-linemen. I know people think the timelines and all construed it, but we had a great wall. We had Tyron Smith, we had Travis Frederick, and we had Zach Martin. Mm-hmm. Okay, along the timeline, we drafted O-linemen recently to replace those guys. We're forgetting that these guys were getting older and they were breaking down before our eyes. Tyron Smith we should have been, and we did. We drafted Tyler Smith to be Tyron Smith replacement. It's just in the in-between years, you kicked them to guard and you found out like, oh man, we've probably got the best guard in the league. We shouldn't move him back. And then with Tyler, we got Tyler Biadasz. Well, we wanted to get stronger than Tyler Biadasz. Well, here comes Cooper Beebe. We try to replace. We already kept Tyler Smith at the left guard, and you want to replace Tyron Smith. This is the Tyler Guyton. That's what Tyler Guyton is for. We have a revolving door, and it was a time of changing of the guard. I'm sorry that changing of the guard happens around the same time that our weapons are also a mess.
Yes. Yeah.
But here's the two things that the two timelines are construed. It's not our job to manage the timelines. We're not the CEOs. We don't get paid the millions of dollars to do that. It's the guys in the front office that should have seen this coming. We've been known, even in the midst of Dak's MVP year, we should have been getting weapons. We knew that. We've been known we needed a running back. But I was saying last year, there's a storm coming, everyone. Hey, O-line, Zach Martin, even if Zach Martin would have came back, I'm looking to upgrade him because it's time. You know, it's time, and everyone was like, "Oh, it's time to draft O-line." I understand it, but you booed your last few O-linemen, and they end up being all pros. And I can't express it enough to you. Your history, we don't get far as Cowboy Nation unless we have a great O-line. That is our history. That is our history. That is our blood. So, if we have a chance to upgrade, we need to consider it, especially with the fact of this. Last year, we struggled. The year before that, Dak had an MVP season. The weapons were the same. What changed? I keep saying this. The thing that changed was the guys up front.
That's a great point.
The guys up front changed. You added two rookies out of position, and at the same time, your leader was deteriorating before your eyes, and your right tackle was also deteriorating, and your best O-lineman was not the same. Yeah, you can blame it to coaching. You can chalk it up to that. But at the same time, all of them being bad at the same time, and it doesn't raise any red flags. That was you didn't lose last year. You didn't get whooped last year because Tolbert couldn't get open. That contributed to it. No, what happens because we couldn't get open at a certain point, during Dak MVP, and they came knocking on this door like, hey, let's open this playbook up. I think they did the same thing this past year, and McCarthy probably looked like, listen, Dak, I want to open it up, but you don't have time. You don't have time. Even in the West Coast offense, when it's one read, people are in your lap. Yeah. And so I don't know how to tell you. Things change. Things can't happen. Ask the Chiefs. They lost 2 Super Bowls when their offensive line were compromised.
That's what I can't get out of my head. I said that last night on my live. I was like, I can't remove what I just watched the Eagles do to the Chiefs.
And it's similar to the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers did the exact same thing. Yeah. They got after Patrick Mahomes. They got after him. And immediately afterwards, everyone's saying, oh, they added weapons. That's how they won a Super Bowl. No. They're what they're going to do in this draft too. You better pay attention to the Chiefs. They're going to shore up their O-line and protect that investment.
Watch. Yes, sir. Yeah, exactly. Okay. I want to build off of that, and then we'll shift, and I just want to kind of get your generalized thoughts. Maybe just let you talk about assume Tet and Genty are gone. Assume that just at 12. Don't even assume Tet and Genty are gone. Let's just assume the Cowboys see it regardless of who's on the board. Lose favorite lineman, and there goes my camera. We just talked about this. Yeah, don't worry, guys. As long as you can still hear me, we'll be good. I'll hit refresh once I pass the torch. But
my favorite.
Real quick before you talk about that, I was just going to add to your previous point. Offensive line. The 3 most successful hit rates from 2000 to 2019, the position in first round draft picks, the 3 most successful positions in round 1 in terms of signing a second contract with the team that drafted you. Number 1 is offensive tackle. Number 2 is offensive guard. And number 3 is center.
Ooh, that's a stat. You hear that, Boss Cowboy? Shout out to Boss. That's a stat right there. But Jesus, I mean, that's why they
in your mind for those that are listening, those that are watching. Don't forget to hit the like button, by the way, and show my guy Lou some love. Thank him for being here. This discussion is fantastic already. It's been 20 minutes of just absolute bars, but I'm gonna let you go ahead and talk about the old, like, just who you like at 12, who's the best fit given the new scheme, and who do you think is just realistically in play for the Cowboys, all things considered. And while I refresh this camera.
Yeah, that's a stat, man. Wow. That's what they say when you draft the old lineman. He's going to be good for 10 years. And, I mean, they're not exaggerating with that. But who I like, my number 1 overall offensive lineman is Josh Simmons, the tackle from Ohio State. I love
He's also on the thumbnail, so that's good news.
Yeah, I really love him. In terms of just in last year's, I keep using this as a bar. Last year's class was a generational, or just a very, generational tackle class. He would have been at the top. You know what I'm saying? He would have been one of the first guys picked. higher than what you got Tyler Guyton for. That just to keep that in mind. I just giving you, a baseline. And I just really look. Only problem with him is the injuries, but they're getting reports that he's most likely going to be back towards camp. So if we get him, obviously I want to kick him to tackle, and make Tyler Guyton have competition. Keyword: I want competition with the right tackle, and he may not beat out Steele, but the most important thing, I give the young kid some guidance. So and he's gonna be our tackle for the future. I'm not throwing him away. I just need to give him some guidance. But who I like the most with the 12th pick, who I've been preaching, is Tyler Booker. I really love Tyler Booker's film. I've been on record to say he is the best film in a draft. People think I'm just being, oh, you just pro O-line. In terms of competition, in terms of, just how much he's dominated his competition, the attitude he plays with, I don't really see anyone in any other position playing like that. I mean, of course, Ashton Genty. I'm just, being over exaggerating, but this kid, when you watch him on film, plays angry, absolutely angry. And I love that he's finishing blocks. He's trying to block you past the ground. And I'm mentioning him. You would think his strength is in the run game, 6'5", but his strength is actually in pass protection. That's the crazy thing about it. Now I know people are coming to me saying, "Oh, can he convert to the right side?" Well, guards it's easier to convert than tackles. He also played right tackle in high school, so I just want you to keep in mind with that. So yeah, I really love this kid, who I think the Cowboys are going to pick. We've been talking about. I think Armand Mimbo is really so in play, very much so in play. But yeah, I don't be afraid, Cowboys Nation, of O-line. We're trying to upgrade. I know that we have Hoffman there, but I'm just leave you with this. Hoffman at his primary position lost his spot to a rookie. So at his secondary position, don't be afraid. And like Bossman,
That's such a great point, man. Great point.
I understand like weapons and everything like that. I'm not saying not to get weapons. I want to get weapons, but we have seen a greater impact when we shore up the offensive line. Boss always points it out. I don't want to take it away from him. He literally said once we got Zach Martin, the running back we had back there, I think it was it Darren McFadden, or was it 29 Murray? It went from 1,300 yards to 1,800. Like 1,800 yards. Like that's what happens. And then surely after you get a Ezekiel Elliott, and it was a perfect marriage and happened. That was a couple of drafts later. The same thing happened with this Philly offensive line. Everyone keeps saying weapons got them there. No, their offensive line got them there. Sure, I love Saquon Barkley, but Saquon Barkley was going nowhere in New York. And you saw how much he depended on a great offensive line. That offensive line for Philly, with a Miles Sanders that's on your team right now, he got 1,300 yards.
Yes.
And then in the next year, when they got Saquon, he got a world a record.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that I'm saying the impact when you shore up this, you impact more, you shore up more aspects of your team. Our Cowboys Nation, the reason why we haven't been losing is because we are not tough. And the thermometer for the toughness, how you measure it, you immediately measure your trenches. How tough is your defensive line and how tough is your offensive line? If we're not tough, we're going to get beat the exact same way we've been getting beat these past couple of years. It's been a pattern. We've been getting beat. No, it's not because we couldn't outscore guys. No, we've been getting beat because even when we had number one offenses, teams slow the game down. That's the obvious counter in football. When you're facing a team that you're not more weaponed up to, you slow the game down and you make them come play on your terms. You know what I'm saying? Time of possession, keeping them off the game. And how you counter that? You can't counter that with just scoring. You need to counter that with the counter. You want to get tough? Let's get tough. We're gonna break you down as well because it's just a giant boxing match. It's all it is. And they're sending gut punches. You're trying to go for the haymaker. Well, the gut punch is gonna break you down, make you tired. You don't. That's what I'm trying to do to my opponents. I want to break down Philly. I want to break down New York. I want to make them quit because that's what Philly been doing to everybody. They make people quit. Yeah,
man. Hey, hold up. I'm gonna sit here and smile for a second. I want everybody to just put their thought. I mean, there's no way you can listen to Lou just then and not get a little bit excited. But especially for me, I felt that because that's what I've been preaching. Sorry if I got FaceTime calls coming through, so forgive me on that front. But I felt like I was at the podium for so long, like emphasizing the most significant losses in recent Cowboys history in embarrassing fashion were all this as a result of the same philosophy or the lack thereof.
Right.
Bullied. The Buffalo Blueprint, as I called it. James Cook wasn't some feared, ground and pound you
Talk about
ball carrier. 49 carries combined between he and the other gentleman in the backfield with them last year.
Is it Davis?
Name escapes me. Somebody can help me out in the chat. For almost 300 yards. And they put the e-brake on halfway through the third quarter. They could have ran for 500 if they wanted to.
Exactly. Right.
So Green Bay, same thing.
It opens everything up. But I'll tell you, when you lose in the trenches, it's like the levees break. That's why you were getting put in 45 up on. It wasn't because
your wheel is broken. And
your
what does
wheel.
that do? Dak starts pressing, forcing things in a double coverage against alongside receivers last year that couldn't separate. The year before as well, it was a similar situation. But we're throwing stop routes to Brandon Cooks. Don't even get me started on that. But so anyway, yeah, it's just what wins in December, January, and February. What travels on the road when it's cold? What
two things: a run game, and a defense. They've been saying this since the 1910s, and football has changed so much.
Yeah,
we didn't try to make it a full passing league, and here we are with the phases of football. We're right back to the beginning. We're right back to and that's who all prevails.
Man, we are so like-minded. I love this. We got to work together more. This is good stuff.
What's the differences between we love college football, we love Texas. What's the difference between Texas and UTSA?
Trench play, easy.
What's the difference between the FBS and the FCS?
Trenches.
You can find a receiver anywhere.
You find 4.4s anywhere, right? Talk to them.
I know it's a different caliber, but when those teams play, I'm sorry, but it's if you can't get the ball off, we ain't gonna never see it. That's the main difference. That's why we can't. That's why those teams at week 0 of college football. That's why it be blowouts. The difference between those programs is the trenches, and everyone knows that. Everyone knows that.
And just so to reemphasize, guys, it's a numbers game. Okay, there are very few individuals in general that are 300 pounds. All right, there are even fewer numbers of individuals in this country, high school, college, pro, that are 300 pounds, highly technical, wired the right way, and athletic. There are even fewer guys that are 300 plus pounds, big enough, technical enough, experienced enough, and wired the right way to last, to continue growing, to not just get left behind in the dust because you can't keep up because it's such a demanding physical position. And so transitioning to the other side of football, I see a comment in here a second ago. DMV says Texas got better everything. Hey, if we want to talk numbers and just be real about the dark decade, I have projects all over the place on every social media platform dedicated to that as well. The dark decade of Texas, the two eras of Charlie Strong and Tom Herman. There was a 5-year stretch, and my guy Nino's Corner actually led this charge. I followed it up, but he put me on to it. He did a study, 5-year stretch, from 2018 to 2022. So 18, 19, 20. Yeah, that's 5. Math is hard. Texas was tied for last place in the Big 12 with Kansas, with 18 total scholarship offensive linemen brought into the program in a 5-year stretch. Real quick, I forgot what the math is, but I did this in the project. Let's see, 18 divided by 5. That is 3.6 offensive linemen per year brought into your program. Do you know what the schools like Alabama is doing? What Georgia is doing on an average recruiting cycle? Right? It's almost double. It's like 5.2. Even Oklahoma at the time
Yes, that's what I'm about to say. That's why they were successful.
My French. Yeah. So what did Kyle Flood do? 2022, right? The Texas Trench Tragedy is what I called it, alongside the Dark Decade, because of the Texas Trench Tragedy. Kyle Flood, the offensive line coach from Alabama, right? What does he do? Signs 7. His first full recruiting cycle in 2022. That was the Kelvin Banks year, by the way.
Yes. I remember that.
Look who's about to be a first-round draft pick this year. Okay? 7. The best offensive line recruiting class in Texas program history. And, oh, wow. Would you just look at what happened as a result of that? 2 consecutive college football playoff runs.
2. You go in and you...
1 play away. And really, from a national championship appearance last year. And then, a couple things go, there was a 14-point swing. Quinn Ewers gets sacked, and what's his name? The edge from in this class from Ohio State picks
Sawyer.
Jack Sawyer. 14-point swing on the verge of 2 national title appearances, all off the back of the foundation, retooling and dominating up front. So,
and we had guys come through there at receiver. We always had that. We can recruit that,
Yep.
Like, and that's been the main like the reason why we got so far last year. Man, our defense, we had the number 1 D-liner in the country. We had Sweat and Murphy.
Yes. They were actually the 2 highest graded interior defensive linemen in the country. Both of those guys, 1 and 2, should have been first-round picks. Each of them, T. Sweat fell to the second because of some off-the-field stuff. But yes, nobody ran the football in Texas. Teams didn't even try, even in the playoffs.
Except one team, and we got them. Well, that's how I knew. Yep. Except one team.
Yep.
Kansas State.
Yep.
And I was like, that's how I found. I was like, why we always struggle with Kansas State every time? Oh yeah, it's Big 56 down there. Big 56 moving no matter what you got named. Nobody, he don't care about your name. In his eyes is college football 07. You are D lineman number 90. You are not Tavondre said. You are not Byron Murphy. I'm going to move you against your will. And that's the difference. That is the difference, man. I swear, like I try to preach to people.
Man, that's such a fun discussion right there. So we clearly see eye to eye. I guess the next thing I kind of want to talk about, just generally speaking, just a few more minutes here, a couple more questions for you. And once again, thank you for your time, man. If you guys in the chat are appreciating this, just let us know. Throw the horns up for the kid and just continue bringing your questions in here. We'll let you guys drive the discussion as we close. But I just got a couple more things that I want Lou's take on. Pun not intended, actually. So we got your dream Cowboys pick. Didn't do that. Real quick, too, before I forget, shout out to the official sponsor of the Lando Show. You can't really see it because of the white. This is their Azalea collection this year. Got the little Masters touch right here. Get your Waggle.com code HOSL10, the best and fastest growing golf apparel company in the game right now. Happy Masters Week, too, for those of you guys who are invested in the golf world. So this is going to be a fun Thursday through Sunday. I can't wait to watch it unfold. Make sure you're following Lou as well. On the ticker at the bottom, you can see exactly. Do I have that correct, by the way? On your 2 different specific handles there. You're on Instagram too, so you can find them everywhere. But fantastic work, man. You really have. You've carved a lane, and it's necessary. It's a lane that this space needed, right? It can't just be Vach and maybe a select, very few other people who are as well versed in offensive line, just trench play in general, as you guys are. So I want to implore you, not that you need it from me, but just to continue doing what you're doing, brother, because I'll continue to support you in every way that I possibly can and learn from you in the process. So I really appreciate it. This is good. This is good, fun, clean, thought-provoking work we got going on. Wyatt Sick has in the chat over here. He says, how far in advance do NFL teams start to prepare? Example, Ryan Williams, wide receiver, Alabama. Well, I'm not sure exactly what you mean. Do you know what he's saying there?
Like recruiting, like they're the class of 2026. You talking about like in terms of tanking?
Maybe that's what he's referring to. Yeah. I know that there's a lot of people, Cowboys fans in particular, because of Dak's contract, still think that the Cowboys are going to tank for Arch Manning, who, by the way, is going to play 2 more seasons of college football. So you're gonna tank for 3 consecutive years. Like, if that's what you thought last year was, no, it was resetting the books, man, and sort of wiping the slate clean from a financial perspective. And so now that maybe this is the next question I want to get your opinion on, Lou. I did see free agency in the chat box a second ago, and I just remembered I was going to talk about defensive tackle. I agree, but why I touched on defensive tackle this offseason, that's the position that I wanted to spend big on in free agency because, in my personal opinion, and maybe you can attest to this, I'll see where you're at. Defensive tackle is the toughest position to translate in the National Football League. Why? Why do I say that, Lando? It's more nuanced, and I'm going to let Lou go, but in its simplest form, it's a numbers game, right? We talked about how rare it is to have a 300-pound body, but much less one that's a 300-pound body, athletic enough to compete, wired the right way to do all the film study, to get better on his own, your own, things as far as hand placement, leverage, technique, right? Get off, all that stuff. All that on top of you're outnumbered. We're talking about comboing and climbing a second ago with Brock Hoffman. Power scheme. You got most cases, right? There's 5-man fronts, sometimes 6-man fronts, sure. But even still, the guys in the middle, the defensive tackles, they're wrestling with 2 300-pound technicians, black belts in wrestling and hand fighting at the same time. Right. And by the way, on top of that, now they also don't have the luxury, much like offensive linemen do, of knowing where the play's going.
Exactly.
It's a guessing game as well. And you're wrestling, as some people would like to call it. That's the Southern Mississippi in my blood right there on my dad's side. Wrestling with 2 grown-ass men at the same time.
Man.
And so DT is tough to translate. I wanted them to address, like Jonathan Allen. That was a freaking layup, dude.
Yes.
I was pissed about that. I'm not going to lie to you. And I thought that something was in the pipeline. Maybe not. Could still trade for a guy. Could still add a guy. Some teams are going to be cutting players. Grady Jarrett was another one. I was like, dude, come on, Jerry. Wake up. Hop off the yacht. Pick up the phone. So your thoughts on, I guess, just that, like, why, maybe just elaborate on why DT is so tough to translate and why it's not maybe the best idea for the Cowboys right now, all things considered, to try and address that early on because of those things that we just discussed.
Yeah. For one, it's like you said, it's the many things that can have. And then it's probably this colloquial. It's the most manhood position, I would say, translating from everywhere else. As you can grow, I would say at receiver, you don't have to be the strongest to produce, or for running back, you don't have to be the strongest to produce. You can, but as you grow, you can get better your production. D tackle is needed up front. Like I was talking about uprooting, moving guys against the wheel. Like, it's just different. You have to understand so much. That's why I appreciate D tackles who don't go out there and just act all willy-nilly. You got to have a plan. First, you got to understand what type of D tackle you are, what you're going to be. If you're the pass rushing type, you got to be selective with it. If you're going to be the run stopping type, you got to be what type of run stopper you are. Are you going to be the stout, anchor that doesn't get moved, or are you going to be the guy who's going to be able to read and react and claw, down the line of scrimmage, be a lateral defender, if you will, or if you're going to be the guy who's going to be able to knife through, because you have great hips, you have great, you can turn your body just well, and you can make it hard for offensive linemen, and you can, know how to tort and not fight, get your hat placed high. And that's
like
the other thing.
That's Osa's bag right there, kind of what you do.
Right. You know what I'm saying? He thrives in that because and I think that's what it is, right? It's probably a pride thing as well, because these guys, when they're in college, everything works.
Yes.
and then when you get to the league, they're gonna humble you real quick. All that ain't gonna really work, because now we understand what you are, and we know, like you said, we know where the play is going. My job is get my hat play side. I feel like defensive linemen, they need to learn some O-line terms that's probably the mental side they need to grow into as well. Like understanding what an offensive lineman is trying to do on the outside zone. What are we trying to do on a counter? Like the whole point, like I was talking about the gap scheme displacing, if the front side double team does not work, you leave so many people free. Like you leave the guy we're pulling for free, the kick out, which is the end, and you may even leave the -1 linebacker free for him to scrape over the top. So, and like that's why we got it. We had to give Mozzie some grace because we could ask him to come in and be something that he wasn't. And that's another thing. Like a lot of these D tackles don't pan out because we just draft like, and that's what I hate. It's my angle. Like, yeah, I kind of get like heated when people be like, "Oh, he's 300 pounds, he can play here." Like on both sides of the ball, like offensive line and D line. Like, no, like you were saying, there's nuances to this. Like everyone's 300 don't weigh the same, or it doesn't.
Right.
It
or
doesn't
move the same.
or move the same. Like
Mhm.
I just put out a video on a guy, Kenneth Grant. Guy's 340 pounds. He moves faster than his safeties. Like, like when he has the wind.
He's a real unicorn too, for sure.
Like,
That
you know what
dude,
I'm saying?
you ain't
Yeah.
supposed to move like that at that size. Seriously, that's different. Alfred Collins in a similar light, right? He's I mean, I wrote about the closest thing to Chris Jones since Chris Jones, just because of the frame and the physicality. But guess what? Alfred Collins, he still has 20 pounds on Chris Jones. And that dude is legit 330. I've stood next to him. I've seen him. I mean, I've been on the field with him side by
and
side.
Chris
when he's talking.
Jones
Yeah.
can anchor like twice as much as what Alfred Collins can give you right now.
Texas thought that it was gonna, they were gonna have gaping holes at the defensive tackle spot when they not dismissed, but when T Sweat and Byron Murphy graduated and moved on to the league. It's like, how do you replace the top 2 graded overall interior defensive linemen in the country? Oh,
right.
Well, insert Alfred Collins and just watch him work.
Right.
I mean, just crazy the development curve. But like for him, the whole thing was leverage. It was pad level and in some ways hand placement. But you touched on it, like the Mozzie Smith thing, real quick, just to sort of build off that. That's another really passionate take that I have about the narrative around him and just why giving up or just saying that he's a scrub or he sucks or get him out of here. I think it's foolish, or it's at the very least, it's naive considering the circumstances, right? When he was brought in here, he was a 2-gapping run stuffer. He wasn't a pass rusher at Michigan in college. Right. You all of a sudden ask him to do something that he's never done, be something that he's never been, penetrate and get upfield. And that's not necessarily, it's not an indictment on Dan Quinn. It's just sort of his philosophy. It's right. It's how his defenses have worked and had success. And so you sort of get that, but it was like the Cowboys tried to validate the selection because at the time there was ridicule over taking a defensive tackle. That's really a one-dimensional player out of college, not a pass rusher in the first round. It's like you only want, because of just the importance of pass rush and how many times teams are throwing the football, right? It's like you want that ability. So they were mocked for sort of taking a run stuffer in round 1, but then Will McClay and company, I think Stephen Jones also too, they touched on it, right? In the post round 1 presser, they were like, "Oh no, we think he can be a real pass rusher in this league." And so it was like they were instantly just in defense mode and trying to make Mozzie something that he wasn't. Dude loses 30 pounds. Confidence gets shot. You hear all these reports, and this is not my words. I'm not speculating. I'm just saying what Brian Broaddus, who was plugged in, reported at the time. Most people forgot this. This got brushed to the side, but he was saying there was some real mental things that Mozzie was going through as a result of all this. Like, he's like, just think about it, okay? You're trying to make the transition. We just talked about why DT is the most difficult position to translate in the league, okay? So you got that going. You're tasked with completely changing who you are as a player. All the while, oh, hey, Mozzie, you mind losing about 30 pounds for us? While you're making the transition, while you're trying to turn into somebody that you've never been. And it's a full-time job to monitor your diet, your caloric intake, and manage that. While all these other things, you move across the country, you're living without your family, all these different things. And my camera keeps cutting out. So maybe we just need to go ahead and call it. But we'll use the internal camera for the rest of the show. I guess it's working now, so that's fine by me. As long as you guys can hear me, I don't really care. But needless to say, Mozzie Smith, much like Tyler Guyton with the situation with Mike Solari on a 1-year contract, right? Expiring deal, didn't necessarily have time to hold the hand of a project, an experimental project. So like guys got jobs to do and they got games to win. They got families to feed. So Mike Solari, not necessarily an indictment on him either. But I think the Cowboys bringing in not just one, but you talked about a second ago, 2 offensive line coaches on this staff now with expertise and a co-offensive coordinator for the number 1 overall team in the country last year, the Oregon Ducks. You think this team, this new staff, this new system, not to mention Schotty, right, is going to know a thing or two about scheme, marrying the run game to the pass game, being nuanced with your approach to running the football, much less of this just gun run stuff, right, with Dak and the gun and whoever next to him and just, hey, here you go. Good luck. So there's going to be things to where it's like it's, and Steve Shimko is another thing that I'm going to touch on here in a little bit later after we conclude. But Law Nation had a pretty interesting, like he dropped this nugget almost like in passing, but I took that. I was like, oh, wait, hold on. Steve Shimko intentionally sat back because he didn't want to disrupt the coaching staff that was on an expiring contract. He didn't want to try to change. He knew his place. That's called having feel, right? You can't teach feel.
Discernment, yeah.
And so when Law said that, and I need to hit him up behind the scenes and ask him to elaborate if he doesn't mind, because that to me was very, very telling about why we didn't really necessarily see the run game improve, or there wasn't an attempt to be more nuanced with their approach to running the football. And then we get this nugget just randomly, like with Law at Dallas Day, I believe is when he heard this. Steve Shimko took a back seat for a reason. He's like, I don't want to intrude. I don't want to like overstate or what's it called? Overstay my welcome or whatever. And sort of step on anybody's toes when all these coaches are kind of fighting for
their life.
Yeah. So that's an interesting nugget right there. Steve Shimko, the analyst brought on from Boston College, who did some pretty impressive things in his own right as far as running the football is concerned. This team knows a thing or two. And have you noticed, Lou, how quiet they've been about Ashton Genty? Like, I think that's an intentional. I think the Cowboys quietly are like seriously crossing their fingers and singing Kumbaya in a circle every night, just praying to the Lord above that somehow, some way he slips to 12. Maybe unlikely, but
if he gets to 10, you need to go get him. You know, I wish we had it in us. If he slips to 10, like if he definitely makes it past, who's the last team? Was it just the Raiders? That's the last threat, right? Or is it Chicago?
Mm-hmm.
If he makes it past, you need to go get him.
Chicago's at 10, yeah, right now, currently. And honestly, I think people they sort of see that as a lock. Like if he gets past the Raiders, then he's not getting past Chicago. I don't necessarily see it that way either. I think the Raiders are desperate for a corner now, and I think Chicago would be wise to continue adding offensive line help.
They should.
I'm just saying.
Josh Simmons is there. You know,
yeah.
They should.
They'll probably have their pick of the litter. I mean, minus Will Campbell, who seems to be a lock at to the Jags. I mean, Armand Membu is going to be in the discussion. Kelvin Banks will be in the discussion. By the way, fantastic story on Kelvin Banks. If you guys didn't see that piece that I put out, it's just getting to know Kelvin Banks. The case for Kelvin Banks, kind of as a player, but just the person that Kelvin Banks is. One of the most impressive human beings, college athletes, gentlemen that you can ever imagine, right? And just for a program that turned around as quickly as it did, sort of on the heels of a revolutionized offensive line room, Kelvin Banks was the catalyst for most of that, like the culture tone setter of the Texas Longhorns program. Right. Steve Sarkisian at SEC Media Days, pretty important nugget here as well. I mean, he said, I wish I had 85 Kelvin Banks on scholarship. This is a national championship caliber team, a team that just made a run to the college football playoff, set the record for players drafted from the program the season prior. And Steve Sarkisian wants to talk about Kelvin Banks transitioning into a brand new SEC. Now, granted, he was sort of provoked and prodded into talking about his players, but culture was the foundation of the discussion, and Kelvin Banks was the first mention on that team.
Yeah.
So that's a guy, for me, man, I don't know you probably heard me say it. I don't know how many times you've heard me say it, but it's on every thumbnail. It's in every opening, or I guess introduction that I make. Sports below the surface. How you're wired is more important than what you possess physically, right? Physical traits get you into the league. mental traits keep you there.
Yeah.
So Kelvin Banks, I know how he's wired. I know he's going to make it work. And that's a culture tone setter. So anything else we're forgetting, man, that you want to close with?
Yeah. I just hope the Cowboys get some more active in trades, free agency, even though we getting too closer to the draft. I'm excited for the draft, even if, just in general, because I just want to see where everyone goes. This is really like, I would say, my first year getting into this. So I'm be able to see the start of somebody's careers and see how they progress. And I'm like, oh, I have draft notes. I can be like Brian Brothers. I got draft notes on the guy, So this excited. But yeah, Cowboy Nation, do not forget the trenches. It does affect the game. Matter of fact, like I got a little theory, like the entire shift, so the entire NFL starts in the trenches. The passing league started because the lack of pass rushers, and then the pass rushers came, and now we're switching back into a a run first team. The birth of the dual threat quarterback came because of lack of offensive line play, because we need to have playmaking and to be able to extend, and it's literally pushing out the pass protection, the pocket passers, the statues, because of lack thereof offensive line play. So it really affects all of the game, whether you like it or not. I know it's invisible, people don't see it, but I'm just telling you right now, just pay attention to it, because yeah.
Good stuff, man. Cool. Well, Lou, thank you so much again, dude. I can't say it enough or emphasize it enough that I can't wait till we do this again, because I feel like we probably could have wrapped for 2 hours.
Facts.
Just with the way that we see things. It's a great fit. And so, man, like I said, thank you again. Make sure that you guys are checking out Lou, because he brings a necessary niche into this industry, the Cowboys sports media space, and he's only going to continue to grow. This is just the beginning for him, and I like to think it's still just the beginning for myself. But we're going to see. Just keep plugging along and doing our thing, man. So thank you guys for tapping in. Make sure to like the video if you haven't already, assuming that you're subscribed to both of us now. All you got to do is like the video. That's the best and fastest, cheapest way to help us out. It's totally free, but worth every penny, man. So once you do that, just share it with a friend, because the chances are that if you like this, you have somebody in your inner circle that would also appreciate the perspective that we just brought to you today as well. I'm Lando from The Lando Show. This is Sports Below the Surface. He is Lou's Takes. We will do this again. And remember that prayer changes things and the war is already won. Thank you, guys.